Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2. It is 9:30 on the dot. Geez, I'm going to be cutting this shit real close, I think, in the future, but let's just stick with it. Let's let everybody filter in. Anybody in yet? Hey, Matthew, how you doing? It's getting a little spicy over there in Europe, isn't it? Just a little bit. Do, 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 do. Screen notice. Share. Sorry, guys, trying to answer an email real quick that popped up. Sometimes I do not like using Outlook. Like, stuff shows up. Oh, an email for 2 o'clock, and it finally clicks in at some point. Like, it's ridiculous at times, I think. I don't know if you guys have similar problems. I don't know. I had my first sleep spicy and cold here. Well, spicy and cold. I mean, are you sitting in Kiev right now? Hopefully not. Hi, Critter. Hi, Cats. Oh, there's 4. All right, I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes. Just kind of give everybody a chance to filter in. So, yeah, how was everybody's day so far? How's everybody's week been? I apologize. Well, guys, actually, I don't apologize. Just today was another day where I was very busy. I know Rennie was. Yeah, I don't take kindly to people unsubscribing. I think that's a little offensive. Playing games with the numbers, it makes my heart go up and down because I'm like, somebody subscribed and then they're gone. I'm just kidding. So, all right, guys. You know what? I think we might get started now. I guess and just go from there. Yeah, Reeves and everybody. So I guess I'll start this off by saying welcome everybody. Episode 2 of hopefully who knows many many more. Today is February 24th, 2022. And I guess I'll start off by saying first and foremost, oh, hi Candace. Glory to the army of Ukraine and may they litter the countryside with burning Russian tanks. That's all I have to say. I'm not going to talk about how the whole thing started. I just hope the Ukrainians keep stacking Russian bodies like firewood. Don't blame them. It's their homeland. They should be allowed to keep it. And if you haven't been following it, apparently they've been putting in that dirty ass work on them Russian boys showing up. It's very impressive. So just keep up. Eventually they quit coming if you kill enough of them. With that issue about war done, let's focus on the criminal cases. So I guess we'll start off with Curtis Reeves. Popcorn Man. I know that's what you guys ended up watching some today. Uh, and we'll get to why you guys had to watch some of that today. So Curtis Reeves was on the stand. I know you guys probably watched it. I was able to watch bits and pieces. I was able to catch up this afternoon a little bit after things had settled down. And I didn't want to jump in stream to talk. Um, kind of what I looked at, he got up there and looked like an old man. Uh, I don't, I would like to think Curtis Reeves is a smart man, so he took advantage of the fact that he's almost 80 and got his cane and got up there and made sure he was a little wobbly and whatnot. No different than if personal injury case, you might be wearing that neck brace on, saying, "Oh my God, I can't walk from the car accident." So you know what? That's fine. He actually also might need the cane, but you know what? He sold it very well, I think. Um, it does help because that's a visual aid for the jurors. Now, he may not have looked like that 8 years ago, but he looks like that now, and that's all the jurors see. Um, he didn't come across as a dick. He kept his cool on the stand. Um, but I will say he's a cop, and I don't know why, at least from what I was able to tell during cross examination, the prosecutors didn't bring that fact up that he's a police officer, a veteran police officer. He's probably been in court a ton. His entire career was about police work. So part of that for him, it sounds like he was fairly accomplished, was testifying. So that was not his first time in court. And you know, his 30 some years of being a cop certainly affected his ability to testify today. Um, so I don't know why that wasn't brought up. I think that would have been a great point for the prosecution to do, but they didn't. So that's they had a chance to make some hay there and they didn't. Do I think he let his ass off? I don't think so. At the end of the day, I still go back to that video that got enhanced. It looks like he took a swing to the head, and at that point, it's game on. Uh, so yeah, no, Kimberly, I agree. He should have walked away. He could have walked away. Could have gone sat somewhere else, but he didn't. But Chad Olson still didn't have the right to go swinging on the guy. I will say, Curtis Reeves when he testified, like I'll give you when he said like I'll give you one last chance or whatever it was he said. He tried to make it sound like he had authority over. It's like that was real douchey. And if he really said that, the guy's a fucking tool. Absolute tool. Curtis Reeves, if you're watching this, bro, you're not like he tried to Karen that really hard, it sounds like, and he was honest about that. So he probably really was a Karen. But even Karen's had the right to self-defense. And remember, Kimberly, it's not that you're not convinced, but remember, it's like kicking a field goal for the prosecutor. They've got to make it. If it's not close, it doesn't count. So, if it's a tie, you should defer to the runner. Um, the tie, you defer to the base runner in baseball. Um, I'm I'm really leaning towards his side, but even if I'm not, at the end of the day, I don't think they've met the burden as a prosecution. Um, I'm curious to know what you guys think. Aside from him lying, yeah, I mean, he came across as believable. He came across as an old man, but like I said, I think he had a lot of practice and from his prior life that I don't think most people would be that good on the stand. I'd expect a career cop to be that good on the stand. Uh it could be. I mean, Matthew, you might be right. Maybe I read this all wrong, but for right now, I'm still kind of thinking it's a not guilty. Like I said, at the very least, just because I don't think they met it, but we shall see. Uh, being wrong is something I'm not afraid to do. So, like I said, with the whole Christopher Edge or Theodore Edgecombe thing, I dug in on that hill and stayed there till the bitter end, pretty much. Uh, that was really it for Christopher Reeves. Yeah, the horse did it. No, I mean Curtis Reeves. Uh, next one I wanted to talk about was William Husel, and that's the doctor out of Columbus. Now, why do I bring this guy up? Well, it's an interesting case, and I know some of you guys don't necessarily think this might be the most interesting type of case, But I think given what we're looking at here, it actually is very interesting because it's a murder case, but nobody's claiming self defense. It's a murder case, but the defense is claiming he was being compassionate, kind of being like an angel of death and taking care of these people. So it's almost like a murder, but it was a excusable murder. Not saying that there's a complete, oh, he had to do this, but he was trying to help. And I think that's a little different than most murder cases you'll see. And also, like Brett Hankinson, that's pretty straightforward. He did it. Curtis Reeves, I think you can agree or disagree there, but like I said, I don't think that's I just don't think it's as interesting at the end of the day. Now that we've been through it, it's a boring trial. It's a horribly run trial. Um, I think Husel's a little more interesting in that sense. So you guys were watching it, and then there was a juror issue, and that lunch turned into a 3-hour ordeal. And what was the issue? Well, it turned into a problem with the jurors. First and foremost, some members of the jury were having discussions about the defense attorney, Jose Baez. You guys remember him from the Casey Anthony trial, where I've heard stories that he may have dipped his pen in company ink. Who knows? That was allegedly. So I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that's what I heard. Um, so that's an issue. And I think somebody brought it up before. Is that a bad in the chat one day? Is that a good thing to have an attorney that's so high profile that that becomes a point of attention? Well, it sounds like in this case it may have backfired because the jury is now talking about the attorney himself. Uh, is that against the rules? I mean, you're technically it's kind of about the case. Uh, Cats, we'll get to that about the victims, but that became an issue now because the jury is now talking about Jose Baez and his involvement and the fact he's kind of becoming an issue there. Also, it appears that the jurors, and actually, I'll bring this up so we can follow along together. Uh, Here we go. Share screen, Chrome tab, share. All right, so here's where we start off with. Give me 1 second here. I need to sneeze. So, as you can see, the jurors brought up there was an issue about Jose Baez, the defense attorney, and God, these temperature changes are killing me out here. Going from like 60 to 10 every day. Um, the jurors also asked if they could have a discussion on preliminary issues. Um, and that may sound like, I guess, you guys listening to that, uh, common sense, but you're not allowed to talk about anything about the trial. Um, and that's the thing. When you're on the jury, you can't talk about anything about the trial until you're done. And we can go from there. Now, what's been going on with the prosecution is they started off with the lead detective. Oh God, that was awful. That was horrible. Uh, that's not how you want to do testimony if you're ever going to become a police officer. You should know what's going on. You should know it fairly well. I mean, you should study for that like it's a test. You should be able to rattle things off pretty well. If you can't rattle anything off, you look unprepared. I mean, you should be able to know something. I mean, this is probably the biggest case you're ever going to deal with. 14 murders. I mean, I'd be like learning everything I could about it and be able to just spit it out like a machine gun. But that guy looked like a dope in front of the jury. After that, it's been a couple of the pharmacists involved who saw things that were a little weird but then didn't say anything. Or when it did report it to the hospital said, it's not a big deal. And why is the defense focusing on that? Well, it wasn't a big deal. It was within the scope of care that there isn't a specific and fatal level of fentanyl you can give to someone. That's not an actual thing yet. I think probably since then we figured that out, but he was just treating him and helping him care for stuff, and he happened to kill him. Oopsie poopsie. He was just trying to be a good doctor and care for his patients. Um, Kat, you're correct though. They didn't ask him to come in there and do it, but it does sound like these people weren't long for the world anyway. But I also agree with the idea that it's not his job to shorten their life any shorter than nature was going to take its course. If he robbed them of 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, that's not for him to do. Geez, this is going to turn into an Allegra and allergy medicine commercial at some point. Um, the pharmacists are a big deal, but there's more and more people. Kimberly, about the nurses. Well, obviously they were involved. They administered things, but where were the nurses? I think they're going to get brought into the case probably coming up because the prosecution's trying to say the doctor's the one behind this. Everybody else is just following along. I do agree with the defense that at some point, this is bad. Why are you going along with it? Why isn't anybody else responsible? The other people who pushed that in, they took that syringe and they pushed it in the line, or that they were filling those scripts, they're just as guilty. They knew what their actions were going to do. This pharmacist knew 1,000 micrograms of fentanyl was going to lead to a certain effect. Well, part of intent is know the knowledge of your actions and what it should be. Well, if you're a pharmacist, you've been trained, you know what's going to happen, but you did it anyway. So you know this is going to kill someone. You asked, "Hey, doctor, did you mean 100 or do you actually want 1,000?" "Oh, I want 1,000." And then once you figure out, well, he's not stealing it to use on himself, he's using the whole thing. Oh, geez, he's going to kill someone, but you still filled it anyway. Um, that's going to be some of the defense's angle is to deflect and get it away. Um, yeah, pharmacists do tell, um, but there's not necessarily and I think it's clear at this point, when this happened, there wasn't a set thing saying like this is a fatal dose. I mean, that's just so much fentanyl. I think you could probably put a horse down with it. Um, Big thing for me is defense bring up 140 vials taken out for a patient by a different doctor. Understand it was in a surgery, but will the huge amount land with the jury? I think so. I had to rewind for that because I had a friend who practices down in Columbus. He was watching it from his office today. He told me to focus it. He told me where to look for that part. Yeah, 140 vials of fentanyl. Um, and that's how you show there's issues with this. Why aren't it's not out of the ordinary? Did he do anything wrong? No. Well, if he didn't do anything wrong, then he didn't commit murder. That takes away the presumption his actions were sketchy or unlawful or shouldn't have been done. Oh, I'm sorry. I should probably turn that off. I was wondering why I was hearing explosions in the background. Uh, um, I hope that makes sense there. It's you want to show that he didn't do anything out of the ordinary, and the reason you can say that is nobody reacted for a while. The pharmacist really didn't do anything. The nurses really didn't do anything. The hospital didn't do anything. Well, if everybody was a-okay with it, then why are we trying to railroad this guy in murder? So I think that's a good strategy. There certainly might be more to it. I assume they've got some experts who are going to come in and talk, so we should see what else is going on. Uh, yeah, Shannon, I know that they probably need that amount if they're doing surgeries, but still, it's about pointing out, hey, nobody else batted an eye, and you got to run with what you run with. This might be the part where some of you may disagree about a defense attorney kind of bending facts and trying to reframe things and refocus stuff, but they're gonna, that's how it works. Uh, so China, the manufacturer, there's a lot we don't know. Uh When you get to medical grade stuff, though, they do quality testing and purity testing. Like, I'm pretty sure that's medical grade fentanyl is not the same as stuff some Yahoo's shooting up in a 7-Eleven gas station bathroom right now. Uh, that stuff can vary greatly, but generally, what you get for medicinal purposes, it's pretty standardized. I mean, fentanyl's been around for a long time, and if you don't know, they invented that stuff for people who are having like terminal cancer and were dying, and the pain was so bad, morphine wasn't working. So they came up with fentanyl as a synthetic they could put on patches and stuff. Um, yeah, now it's pretty much all made in China. This segment is brought to you by Allegra, 24-hour allergy relief. Um, the defense did try to discredit the whistleblower, and you have to. You have to discredit your witnesses, make them look not trustworthy, not credible, if not sometimes not competent. And you just keep on chiseling away at things. I think tomorrow will be interesting to see what they're going to do. I will be available tomorrow. I plan on streaming it from the start. Uh, and Jeffrey, I'll go back to what Reeves had 8 years to rehearse. Yes, and I don't know, and I didn't catch all of Reeves' testimony, but I don't know if that was brought up, and if that wasn't, once again, that is a big miss by the prosecution. They should have hammered that. And then the video appeared to be a flick of the wrist as in tossing the popcorn. Plus, was on the floor. There was some issue about the cell phone. Yeah, Jeffrey, I guess here's what I would say. Um, that camera is better than what we saw before, but we still can't really tell a ton out of it. And once again, if I can't tell, to beyond a reasonable doubt, then it's not guilty. And I would just tell you, beyond a reasonable doubt is the threshold of certainty you use in your most important life's affairs, like buying a house, buying a car, where you're gonna, nursing home for your parents, the doctor you're gonna use for a complicated surgery, like a serious life-threatening surgery. You're gonna be about as goddamn sure as you can be. As sure as you can be about anything in your life. For the car, maybe, maybe not. But for a lot of people, that's a big purchase. But definitely for your house. You're not just gonna say, like, oh, I'm pretty sure it's all good. No, you're gonna make sure everything is good. You're gonna have an inspector, all that fun stuff. So I'm just telling you, unless you're that sure Curtis Reeves committed murder, you have to say not guilty. So that's the only reason why I bring up. I'm not 100% sure, and if you can't be that sure, uh, if you're not that sure, that's what you would use. Kimberly, I work for a contract pharmaceutical company. China sent garlic metal fragments. What the? Like, I'm not saying what the fuck to you, but oh god. Um, whew, that would be some killer fentanyl then. Get injected with garlic powder instead of fentanyl. I'm not sure that takes the edge off. Why did he put his career in jeopardy when he could have put these patients in hospice? I don't know, Candace. That's a good question, and I'm not a. I mean, I don't know if he's going to testify, but that might be something that gets explained, and maybe that gets explained through other witnesses. We'll find out. But yeah, that's a question I've had from the start too. You don't get to act as like a on the fly, you know, amateur hospice care. You're a doctor in a hospital. We have people who do hospice care. And yeah, they inject people with tons of drugs and make their last days as good as possible, but what the fuck is this guy doing? But we're way, way away from that. But hopefully we learn. Uh Shannon, I don't think they were there for end of life care. It sounds like they were just people who were sickly and dying, they were going to die at some point. They were on the way out. But in the meantime, just because you're like terminal doesn't mean you necessarily go straight to hospice. You still might have problems that need addressed. So I think they'll get to that point too when they talk about these each individual victims, why they were there and what was going on. The prosecutor's going to have to show these people had life left in them. Even if it's 5 minutes left, if he cut that short by 5 minutes, that's still illegal. So they're going to have to show these people had sicknesses, but they were not dead yet. Um, but like I said, they're going through the pharmacy. They're going through the initial parts of it. Eventually, they'll hit the victims, and eventually, they're going to hit some experts. And I'm looking forward to that. Um, yeah, 4M. I've got that too. Yeah, it's been rough today. Uh, I saw some videos with the nurses involved. They said doses went too high for somebody for taking someone off a vent. Um, yeah, it does sound like it was high, but if you don't have guidelines or policies that you're breaking, then it's hard to say that person's breaking a policy if there's no policy in place. Um, it's kind of like the speed limit. You can't tell somebody they're breaking, going way too fast if there's no speed limit. Um, do you think that this doctor did what every other doctor did? It's just a pharmacist who shouldn't have gotten involved. Uh no, no, I don't think so. I hope to God doctors out there aren't just looking at somebody like thinking, "Oh, I need to put them down," and then they pump them full of fentanyl. That would be absolutely terrifying. So, no, I think these people were right to be involved, saying, "Whoa, this seems fucked up. We should say something." I just don't think it was handled properly by the hospital, but I think the hospital was like, "Oh shit." I think they kind of swept this under the rug and hoping it would go away. But instead, the doctor killed a ton of people, and people started asking questions. Kimberly, no shit. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've never heard that before, but that makes sense, I guess, with all the drywall and dog food that's poisoned. Reeves also said he shouldn't have done this, and he trained people not to do what he did. Yeah, I get that, and I didn't see that part, but I'm assuming he told people anything you can walk away from is the best way to resolve a situation. Avoidance and de-escalation and deterrence are the best tools to deal with somebody in a situation, and that should be your absolute last option. Well, that's true, and he could say, "Yeah, I teach people not to do that." That doesn't mean what he did was wrong. He could just say, I mean, think about it. It happens. Uh, Doctors in medical school commit malpractice. They teach people not to do things a certain way, and they still screw up. I think that I think actually shows a little bit of humility that I fucked up and I shouldn't have done this. I trained people not to, but I think that also can be used by the defense to say when this stuff is going down and you're up against it, your mind is like running a million miles an hour. Your mind is like, oh my god, this is bad, this is bad. I've been in a situation it never got to the point where things got really dangerous to the point where like a weapon was drawn, but we were getting close to that point. And yeah, I know all the rules, I know everything that's going on, but in the meantime, my head is like, it literally just like the alarms are going off, like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. This is getting bad. This is getting bad. Like, you got to get out of here. Get ready. We may have to throw down. Um, so, uh, well, and I think that that whole issue about the kid, poking him and whatnot, that might be I could see that being a provocation issue. And I think because also the case, everybody's rested. They start closing arguments. Yeah, I could see them bringing up provocation. I could also see that giving the jury an opportunity to go to manslaughter as a lesser included at this point. And I think there's enough there for that. Do I think that's a stronger case for manslaughter? Yes. Two guys, start, rubbing their nuts against each other and jiggling their balls. They're not going to back down. I ain't taking no shit from no bitch. And they say that to each other, and one of them kills the other. So I can see a manslaughter conviction very realistically. Is he guilty of that? I actually think he is. But for murder, no. But once again, it's up to a jury. Uh, Now, here's the other thing I will say, Jeffrey. When you're in a situation like if you were sitting on a park bench and all of a sudden just like two cars crash into each other, you're going to say, oh, yeah, I saw the car accident. But would you be able to know everything about that situation right before it unless you happen to be just like looking? Even then, if you were, nobody's told you. You need to be remembering all this shit that's going to happen in about 10 seconds. You aren't prepared. Somebody's going to get shot. You better be ready, bro. So, I mean, some of these people don't like that's why I think eyewitnesses aren't the most reliable. Yeah, they remember some parts of this, but they also now are able to look back through their mind and rewind the tape. I think your brain does try to shape narratives and fill things together. So I think that becomes an issue. Um, does that? I don't know if that makes sense, and I hope that does a little bit. Oh, all these witnesses say they don't remember stuff happening. Well, how many of like? And that's where I would ask those witnesses what preview was going, what part of the preview was going. They don't remember that. Why? Because they weren't told like, hey, you need to remember every goddamn thing that happens in the next 30 seconds. So I think that's an issue because you don't remember that. So you don't remember the lead up because in the meantime, you're like, oh, it's a couple of guys being dicks at the movie. And you go back to watching the movie. Bang! And somebody gets shot. Like, you're not necessarily knowing right now, hey, these guys are jawing at each other. Somebody's going to be dead in 30 seconds. I don't think anybody involved knew that. So, absent the widow and Reeves' wife, those are probably the only two I think that have some ability to know they were along the story the whole time. That's just my point. I will point out that when I was an intern, I interned in a prosecutor's office in Toledo, Ohio. Now, Toledo, Ohio is not the biggest city in the world, but they have enough murders that they stay busy. You know, they have like 20 some murders a year. Well, I sat through a murder trial, and the one murder, uh, the witness, he really didn't remember what happened. He just heard the bang, and the guy was on the ground, and the bad guy ran off. Well, the defense attorney tried to hammer him on, well, do you remember all this stuff happening? And he made this argument. I thought it was a good one. He said, look, defense attorney, if I had known this guy was going to go out and shoot the other dude, yeah, I'd have been paying attention to the whole thing. I don't expect people to walk up and kill each other. So it's not fair for me to know what's going on. I wasn't ready. I wasn't told to be ready in advance. So, like I said, something to think about when all these witnesses say, I don't remember this happening. They weren't told in advance, hey, you're going to be watching a murder. Uh, yeah, most people are armed in Florida. Yeah, that's why it's called the gunshine state. Uh, let me see here. Closing arguments are 3 hours. Yeah, you risk losing the jury, but it all depends on what you're doing. If you have a good, it's like a good TV show or a movie, a really good TV show that really draws you in. You're like, wow, I can't believe that was 3 hours long. If it's not good, you're like, oh my god, this is plodding along, and you're like, fast forward, fast forward. Yeah, it all depends on what you're going to say and what you're going to do. Now, if the prosecutors have a marble mouth come up there, yeah, they're fucked. Nobody's going to listen to that. With Tom Broken Jaw. Um, do I think the defense attorneys can do a better job based on their opening? I don't know. Hopefully, based on their presentation so far, I think they can tell an entertaining narrative that will keep the jury drawn in. But we shall see. I think they're both going to shit the bed because they didn't do a good opening. Jose Baez, does he have a license? How is he doing Florida? Critter, I hope you're laughing at what I'm saying and not my voice because I feel like it sounds different right now. I'm just kidding. Jeffrey, someone is yelling at a show. Sure, you do. But even then, I mean, how many times have you seen something happen where two guys are jawing off at each other and they're jawing off like a couple of dogs on chains at each other? I mean, really, are you going to sit there and say like, oh, you're going to remember everything? You always go, oh shit, it's going down. I know something big's going to happen here. No, you're like, fuck these guys. Like, get the hell out of here. I don't like this. It's annoying. I mean, yes, today you might go like, this shit's going on World Star and TikTok, bro. But even then, you're like looking at the phone, not necessarily looking at the fight. So that's just my point. A little nasally. Yeah, I'm sorry. uh, that's all I'm going to say about that. I'll leave that. We're moving on. Does Jose Baez have a license to practice law in Ohio? Actually, here we'll find that out right now. If it's not, he's been admitted pro hoc vice, which means you work with another attorney. So here is how you want to do something. I will show you guys a neat thing. Well, at least for Ohio. And I don't know how every other state does it, but you go here. You go to this thing. You type in Ohio Attorney Directory and you go to Attorney Directory search Ohio Supreme Court. The Ohio Supreme Court is the agency and governing body for lawyers in the state of Ohio. My law license is from the Ohio Supreme Court. So you can look up an attorney by his last name. So Baez, and that's probably unique enough. No results were returned. So no, he is not licensed in the state of Ohio. What does that mean? Um, that means he's working with the other attorneys involved, and that's how that works. You're working in conjunction with an attorney licensed in that jurisdiction. So that's how a Florida attorney can practice in other states. Now, if Jose Baez was going to be practicing by himself, he would need to be a Ohio licensed attorney. But because he's working with another attorney, he's allowed to do this. It's very common in federal court because Ohio, for example, has a northern district and a southern district. Because you're admitted to the northern district does not mean you're automatically admitted to the southern district. And just because I'm admitted to the districts in Ohio, if I want to practice in federal court in Indiana, California, wherever, I have to get admitted to each court to practice in front of them. It's a different jurisdiction. So that's called pro hoc vice. And that's what it means. Now, in case some of you are wondering, uh, there's me. Now, I will point this out just because I actually had this issue today. There are two Sean Martins in the state of Ohio that practice. I'm the bottom one. But as you can see, there's two of us practicing, and we are not that much older than each other. The one guy is about 6,000 registration numbers off me, so he's not that much older than me. So, just something to point out if you're ever curious when you see a case and you're wondering where that attorney's licensed from, a lot of states allow you to search to figure out where that guy's licensed at. And most attorneys will put on their website where they're licensed from as well. Uh, Matt, well, wasn't enough now. You mock his voice. Yeah, thanks, guys. Uh, let's see here. All officers guilty in the GF trial. If you haven't mentioned that, um, I had not, but I was going to get to that. I forgot to list it, but the now here's what I will say. Derek Chauvin should have been convicted. I will say I don't know if it was murder. I do think it was manslaughter. I do think that his case on appeal will change some things, especially what happened with Muhammad Noor, which is another Minneapolis police officer. But should this have been I don't know why I have these on because I'm not listening to stuff right now. Such a dope wearing those, like I'm hunting for U-boats or something. Yeah, what should have happened here? Do I think one of the cops who was, I think another one of these guys was kneeling on him, another one was on him, and then the other guy was doing a crowd control. Okay, like the guy doing crowd control, I guess at some point, like, what do you want these guys to do? Like, pull a gun out on Derek Chauvin and be like, get on the ground, bro. I mean, start tackling and fighting each other. Like, those guys alone wouldn't have killed him had they just been doing their actions. It's Derek Chauvin that killed him. So I don't think this was a proper verdict. I don't think these guys should have been tried. I mean, the one guy had only been a cop for like I think a week. Like, how the fuck are you liable at that point? I mean, on any significant professional job, when you're a weekend, you don't know shit. So I don't know. Yeah, well, and that's the thing, playmaker. Yes, once it's the full 10 minutes that Derek Chauvin's sitting there with his hands in his pockets, like, yeah, he's gone. But these other guys, like I said, I don't think they should have. I think they got fucked by everything that was going on, which really sucks for them because yeah, not fair to them. Uh, Also, when the jury answered the question, the action of these three led to his death. Yes, will that act as a sentence enhancer? I do not know the answer to that question. I will look that up to find out because we'll definitely they're not getting sentenced right away, so we'll have some time to come back to that. That is a good question, Matthew. I will make a note of that. The issue is, I'll talk about this coming up. Federal sentencing is very elaborate, and actually, here I will show you, for example. Actually, hold on here. It is called the Federal Sentencing Guidelines, and why are they called that? Because Congress empowered these people, and they're the U.S. United States Sentencing Commission. Um, and here is, for example, how this works. So there's an entire elaborate system to sentencing somebody under the federal government. And you start out here. You start out determining a sentence, okay? The court can impose imprisonment or other combination of sentences. And here's where you talk about under federal law, a lot of the prison sentences and penalties are done in numbers of months. So you see, for example, right here, this 4 to 10, that's 4 to 10 months. And if you get down to here, 360, that's 360 months. Um, 240 is 240 months. 120 is 120 months. That's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, respectively. So you start off with this, and I just bring this up so you guys can see it. And you're going to wondering, you look at this chart like, what the hell is this? The U.S. sentencing guidelines come in a book, or it's a big ass PDF to read through. And I'll probably do it live where we'll go through and we'll pick like Elizabeth Holmes, one of these guys, Michael Avenatti, insert the Arbery, the McMichaels guys, whoever you want to, R. Kelly. We can talk about that. Um, it's very involved. Now, why do I point out this is extremely elaborate? Well, it depends on where you're at, what jurisdiction you're dealing with. Like for Ohio, it's a lot different. There are a handful of things you do for sentencing, and it's not that. Um, Here are if you want to sentence somebody in Ohio, it's very simple, and I just bring this up because I know in Minnesota, and I'm sure if you listen to Nick Cicada, he's a Minnesota attorney. They have all these factors they have to go through. Well, some states it's not that elaborate. There's no sheets. There's no scoring sentence. Um, it's literally they talk about basic things here. So um, when you want to talk about the overriding purposes of felony sentencing, it's to protect the public from future crime by the offender and others, to punish the offender, and promote the effective rehabilitation of the offender using minimal sanctions. Okay, well, that sounds interesting, but what does that actually mean? So you go to the next part, the seriousness of the crime and recidivism factors. I mean, this is it for Ohio right here. That's it. I mean, you talk about, did anybody suffer severe injury, or is anybody's injury exacerbated because of the physical mental condition age of the victim? Was there an public office or position of trust being held? Was there professional occupation or reputation used to facilitate the offense? Going through different things like that, to including, did the victim facilitate the offense, or did they induce you to cause this to happen? Did you act under provocation? Did you not intend to cause any harm? Um, are there other things we can talk about that aren't listed? Like I said, compared to the federal government, this is just you can print this out. It's like 6 pages total. And when you're in Ohio getting sentenced, that's all you have to rely on. So I just point this out. There is very little depending on where you're at, but we'll go back to the federal stuff. Um, every Jody, I agree. Can't even trust juries these days. Yeah, but you know what? It's still the best system. I wouldn't trust any other system in the world right now. If there's a better one out there um, that's being developed, sure, I would take a look at it. But the way other countries do it, I like how we do it over them. Appeals take way too long. Feel for these guys. Here's the thing, and I don't, guys. When you appeal, you've already lost once, and I'll talk about this because I'm working. I do appeals as well. You have to convince a court. Number one, you shouldn't have been convicted. Number one, that it shouldn't have been wrong, and number two, you could turn things around, and you have proof that things would have turned out completely different. That's a very hard burden to establish. Courts will go out of their way to not overturn lower courts. And why do I say that? Well, read Supreme Court opinions. They distinguish things all the time. And they'll say, well, this is still different. And they'll make up a reason for it. Courts do not like overturning lower courts. They don't have to. So when you appeal, you've already lost. And you're appealing a loss. You're already behind the eight ball. You know, going to trial, the whole system's against you to start with. So winning is awesome. If you win an appeal, I mean, that's lottery ticket territory. So it's hard to win on an appeal. And I'm talking about an appeal not where your sentencing was wrong, so you get resentenced like Tiger King, where, okay, that was a technical issue. I'm talking about, no, the jury was completely wrong. This guy gets a new trial. That is hard as hell to get. So, uh, give you a lot of credit for, I've lost all faith in it. Yeah, it does. It does try you at times, but if I kind of look at it as, if not me, then who? I feel like I can do this. I feel like I'm good at it. So if I don't do this and I go to something else, I mean, that talent's being wasted. Not helping that person out there I might help might not get that help if I'm not doing it. I know that's a little egotistical too, but that's kind of how I look at it. Um, Big win for Kim Potter on her sentence. Yeah, I forgot to include this as well. Moving on to another person in Minnesota who was convicted, Kim Potter. Yeah, she got 2 years. I was very surprised. I thought the judge was going to nuke her boots off and give her like 6, 7, 8 years. Uh, didn't happen. It was very weird. That whole sentencing was extremely weird. When the prosecutor gets up there and he gets all choked up and like I think it's almost like he realized, oh my god, this is fucked up. I shouldn't have done it. When he gets all emotional, it was just really, really weird. Um, they try to claim there's some aggravating factors, but then they don't actually prove those aggravating factors, which I thought was weird because it's like they were throwing it, um, which is very weird for a prosecution. If that, because it sounds like they did that to shut up Dante Wright's family, who came up there, max sentence, max sentence, max sentence. Uh, and then Kim Potter got up to do her thing, and her attorney, he did great. That Judge Chu, yeah, I'm sure you guys were all watching it. And somebody asked me to do a video, and I'll probably make a comment about it coming up. I've just been busy as fuck. Um, yeah, this whole nonsense of she basically agreed on the record this was a complete accident. Now, it's important because she actually may have grounds for appeal there. Why? Because when the judge is making determinations about sentencing, those are findings of fact. Those are things she has to establish. I found that she aggravated this by being a cop. She was less aggravating for doing X, Y, and Z. Those are findings of fact she has to place on the record. So that kind of goes back to the whole sentencing thing I was just talking about. All those things mentioned in federal or, for example, in Ohio, are things that are placed on the record. Those then become facts. You could argue about those facts. For example, I know in Kim Potter's case, and I do this frequently, you write what's called a sentencing memorandum, where you point out to the judge, here's all the things that apply, here's all the things that don't apply, and here's why, and then here's case law that backs it up. Um, but Judge Chu, I think she demonstrated that she's a coward. She admitted it was an accident, and she knows that. She could have said, you know what, jury, I understand you convicted her. You guys were completely wrong. I screwed up on giving you guys the law the way I did. Kim Potter, you're not guilty. But instead, she passed the buck. Why? Because she's a coward. She's passing it on to the appeals court. But I just told you, appeals courts are not prone to overturning lower courts. So the appeals court might say, like, what do you want us to do? It's not our job. And I think the appeals court might say, if you thought it was wrong, you should have dealt with it. So Kim Carter still might be stuck with this. Um, it's interesting though that she only has to serve 2/3 of that sentence incarcerated. She's already got 2 months down, so only 14 more to go. Yeah, it's going to take more than 14 months to get her appeal heard. So she'll be done by the time this appeal gets addressed. Um, do I think Kim's response? So Kim's initial response was key. Oh, I mean that she was like, "Oh my god, I fucked up." Yeah. Um, Playmaker, I trust juries. We have no other choice. Yeah, there's nothing else we can do. So yeah, I'm very happy she got 2 years. That's it sounds like from the way I understand it about Minnesota, she's a fox that raided the hen house. So good for her. Um, the judge was crying. Yeah, I think the judge was like torn up emotionally about the whole situation. I also think she's like, "Oh my god, I bitched out and didn't do the right thing." I think some of that was her contrition there. Um, and that's despicable. You're the judge. If something's wrong, you need to stop it. And she didn't. And if she thought this person shouldn't have been convicted, then God damn it, you step up and say, "This is bullshit. I'm going to stop it." I mean, she's the backstop. If the jury gets out of control, she's supposed to catch it. And she decided not to. Um, I think the judge and the prosecutor thought first degree was too much. Well, if the prosecutor thought it was too much, they shouldn't have charged it. And I like I said, the judge she chickened out. She's chicken shit. The chips were down. Fate and history and the world turned. It was her turn to stand up and do that thing that she'd be remembered for throughout history. Fate came knocking and she punted. So no, I have no respect for her. When it's your time to stand tall and do your thing, do your fucking thing. Because nobody will ever question you for not doing the right thing at that point. Sorry, I'm not trying to sound like a dad or anything like that. I just now we're taking it to appeal. See, Jody, I disagree. You take it to appeal. If that's not the case, and she should have been convicted, the next cop down the line, the next person, not even a cop, just the next person that gets charged in a similar situation, where somebody's accidentally a firearm issue or an accidental death. Bad law and bad case law should be crushed every chance it gets. Because if you don't, now that's existing precedent. And you don't want that to happen. If it turns out that's not right, then you need an appeals court to say, "Hey, listen, all you knuckleheads out there in the world, prosecutor rise, do not do what these guys did. This is not a valid use of the law." Because otherwise they're going to say, "Oh, looks like we can do it." Um, now I can also understand Kim saying, "I don't want to do that." And that's fine. That's her right. But if she feels it was wrong, she should get that wrong corrected. Uh, Judge is culpable, bitched out for sure she did. Yeah, and I apologize. I try not to, I understand I can swear, but Judge Chu, if you ever see this, you're a fucking coward. I don't know what else to tell you. I hope you have to look at yourself in the mirror every day and realize that was the case. Can I do the closer? You want to hear a guy talk for 3 hours ahead and took a popcorn and go well, bag. You don't want to hear that tomorrow? Um, Listen, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna focus on Husel and the Husel trial. I don't want to do. I don't want to listen to broken glass jaw man talk. Also, for Curtis Reeves, the closing arguments sometimes help. In this case, I guarantee you, for that jury, the cake's already baked. That jury is pretty much where they're going to be by the time they get in there. Um, oh yeah, he did okay at the stand your ground, and I did go back and watch those hearings. Um, But it's one thing when you don't have to talk to a jury, you're making an argument to the judge. And I think somebody said, Vivian Reeves did bad in the stand your ground hearing, but she did okay. She did fine. I mean, she didn't do anything that torpedoed her husband. So she was okay. She didn't fuck his case up. So that's good enough. That'll do, pig, really. Um yes, not related to the Martin people. Finna watch Reeves. Yeah, I understand you're invested, but I think it is what it is at this point. And also, like I said, I do think Husel. I understand, guys. It may seem boring, but I think it's going to get a lot better. So, oh well. Good night, Jody. Almost an hour in. What else do we have to talk about tonight? What did I say I was going to talk about? We might not have gotten to. Brett Hankinson. Yes. I'm addicted to the Reeves trial. Yeah, I understand you're addicted to the Reeves trial, but that's like people saying they're addicted to heroin. That's not a good thing at the end of the day. um, remember the judge asking at the end of the day, Martin not doing closing, so guess he'll be rebuttal. Maybe. I mean, they could still change that up. Uh, so yeah, in case you guys were wondering the way closing arguments work, prosecution goes first, defense second, then there's rebuttal. And the why the state has the burden of proof. Now, do I agree with rebuttal? No, because you should get your one shot. I get to go. But you know what? Hey, that's the system. That's how it works. Now, there are attorneys who I will tell you, I've heard defense attorneys, there's defense attorney listservs I'm on. I've been in groups of defense attorneys, and they always talk about this absolutely insane idea. Like it's like jumping out of an airplane with like your parachute in your hands, not actually attached to you, and like you put it on as you're falling. Is the idea that I can waive closing argument. If I waive it, then the prosecution doesn't get to do shit. Um, that is an insane strategy, but you hear attorneys talk about it like there's got to be a time where that has to work. Um, I would argue this actually might be a good example of it. Judge, we waive closing argument, um, but there's no way in hell they're going to do it. Um, yeah, I don't like them getting the last word either. Kimberly, have I ever been a prosecutor? Yes. For about 2 years, I was a prosecutor. I was a prosecutor in a very rural county. Um, that really wasn't. I grew up in a very rural setting, a very rural area as a kid. So I thought, oh, we kind of need to go back to a similar place. Was not for me at all. It was way too slow. So I ended up trying to work as a prosecutor in a county where like all kinds of crazy stuff happens, but it's not the big city. It's kind of like a suburb. It really turned out it's just being on the prosecution side. It's not for me. It's just not my thing. Um, so it's a different world. It's a different way of doing stuff. I like being on the prosecutor side. I mean, the defense attorney side a lot more. And we can talk about that another day. Uh, Gabby, I'll have to rewatch it. Curtis Reeves. Maybe I'll rewatch it at some point over this weekend if I have time. Uh, to see what happened. Like Holland, Michigan. Huh? I'm not sure. Um, maybe I missed that. Not sure. Brett Hankinson. I know we watched that trial for a couple of minutes. Uh, he sprayed bullets into that house, and I tried to find that spot. But as you guys, I don't know if you remember, we were watching it. There were like bullet holes all over that wall, shot through other things. Well, Holland, Michigan's not a rural area. Jeez, I graduated from a high school when there were 85 kids in my class. Like I grew up in the middle of nowhere. Um, Brett Hankinson, he testified. His trial's going on, and today they actually had the guy who has the apartment that he shot up. Um, and I know some of you guys might not like CNN and all that. I just used it because it was, I think, a well put together article. Um, so Brett Hankinson actually talked with investigators, and it's different when you're a cop. You have to cooperate with investigations. Why? It's part of your employment. So he has a Fifth Amendment right. He could say, I don't want to talk to the investigators. They would have fired him. but he worked with them to keep his job. So what happened here? Well, he started talking to them though, and he claims that he saw somebody with an AR-15 in the apartment, but there was nobody there with one. He shot at shadows, and I understand he's trying to save his ass because he's probably going to prison. Um, Now, in any other situation, would he be going to prison? I don't know, but he's going to be taking the brunt of the injustice for Breonna Taylor's death that nobody else has had to answer for. That kind of sucks in a way that he's catching all the bullshit, but that's part of the reason why you don't do anything illegal. You might not catch society's fur that way. Um, so, another thing that happened when in the testimony yesterday was the SWAT team leader who came in to secure the apartment noticed Hankinson was like walking around in the apartment. And when you're involved in a shooting, you can ask police officers, you're kind of kicked out of the situation. It's no longer yours because you're a part of a potential criminal investigation. So you don't get to root around. Um, People thought that was weird. I think that was weird too. I mean, does that mean he would have tampered with evidence? I don't know. But I will say it's not uncommon for narcotics officers in metro police departments to do sketchy shit. I mean, that happens all the time. For those of you who may have watched the show The Shield, that was modeled and written after an actual LAPD unit that did all kinds of crazy shit. It was called Rampart. They did all kinds of nasty stuff. So, yeah, could happen. But the guy who had his house shot up, he did get to testify. Um, Cody Etherton, he talked about um, bullets came screaming through his apartment and almost hit him, his girlfriend, who was 7 months pregnant, and his 5-year-old son, who was sleeping in the bedroom. Um, the bullets came crashing through their house out into the night, which they could have hurt other people. Like, thank God there weren't other people outside. And I know some people are wondering, some of those pictures about the bullets and doing weird things. Remember, bullets are pieces of metal going like 1,000 miles an hour, running into stuff. Like, all kinds of weird crap happens. Um, Hankinson claimed he did what he was trained to do, shooting until a threat was done. But when you look at the pictures, those bullet holes are like all over the place. Like, what the fuck was he shooting at? I think he's going to get convicted, and rightly so. 1 or 2 inches is what the guy who was living in the apartment said. Like 1 or 2 inches to the right, he'd have been dead. Or his girlfriend would have been dead, his pregnant girlfriend. And thank God his son. Oh, geez. I mean, imagine that being a 5-year-old on the floor, sleeping and getting shot. He's also suing for $12 million. I hope he gets that. I mean, that's, uh, somebody has to pay. And I think that's, 12 million might be a bit much, but hey, his attorney's going to get a third. So, you know, congratulations to whatever attorney's buying a yacht out of this. Uh, so that's really it for me today. I don't know. Are there other things you guys want to talk about? Brett Hankinson. He's the officer involved in the Breonna Taylor thing, but he's the only officer that's been charged. Oh yeah, Kimberly, I see. It's a rural area. Yeah. One of the issues with Reeves today is that he changed his story in Chad. Said Chad assaulted him 2 times. Well, I I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch the rest of it because I was only able to watch bits and pieces. You know, uh, I'll just leave that there for now. I mean, he's far from guaranteed to walk. I'm just telling you where I feel manned up today and carried, still uncomfortable. And that's the only way you're gonna get used to it. Playmaker, I would say, kind of like I don't know how old you were when you started carrying a wallet. Like in your back pocket, you're sitting on like, oh my gosh, that feels weird. You just got to start carrying it. And after a while, you do it all the time now. So just get used to it. Just keep doing it. Chad never threw his phone. Yeah, I don't think the phone was thrown, but I do think Curtis got hit in the face. I just don't know with what. Um, but once again, it's not an issue of he got hit. Okay, now that hit may have not have been a perfect hit. It may not have been an effective hit, but did the person getting hit believe reasonably they were getting hit in a serious way? Um, that's the big issue there. So remember, you can be mistaken about self defense and still be justified as long as it was reasonable. Uh, and guys, look, here's the thing. That's the neat part about evidence. You guys can have different opinions on it. It's kind of like that. Is that a blue dress or a yellow dress? Well, it's all about perspective. Guilty or not, Chad Justice. Chad got justice. Call me an asshole. Um, he also got to virtually admit that the light on the floor was his light up shoes and not the phone. Uh, I don't. I didn't see that part, so I'll defer to you there, Matt. Um, yeah, like I said, it does sound like there were some things that helped, but remember, I like I said, I just hold them to the bitter end of making sure they can secure this conviction. So, uh, that stuff may help. That stuff would sway me a little bit, but I'd have to really. I'll rewatch it. How about that, guys? Not tonight because I'm not watching 8 hours of testimony tonight, but I'll rewatch it over the weekend and maybe I'll issue a mea culpa. Fuck you, Matthew. I'm right. You're wrong. Me talking about we can agree to disagree. I'm just kidding. They said it was his shoes, but yeah, see, no, I think Playmaker, once again, guys, I think you guys are making valid arguments for and against. Um, this is the kind of stuff that happens in jury rooms. So, how did that night object fly to his head? Uh, yeah, I mean, you guys are hitting it. You guys are doing a great job. So, yeah, this is how you have to look at stuff. You gotta kind of suss it all the way out. And sometimes you're left with, we really don't know for sure. And like I said, I hope you guys understand. This is how most, like, you have evidence in cases. This is how you usually have evidence. It's not like Kyle Rittenhouse where people filmed it from 8 different angles and you can tell, oh yeah, boom, 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 boom. I can tell what's happening here. This is actually what you get. You get ambiguous things you're arguing over. You're arguing over, almost philosophically, like, what is time? Do we really know? What is truth? Um, that's really what happens. The thing I was supposed to have for trial this week, um, as a result of the police doing their searches, there was some ambiguous evidence. Did it mean my guy knew it was there? I don't know. It's not really clear. Even the officers and their statements and what I know they were going to say, it's not clear exactly who said what or how it was said. So that's where you run into that issue of the ambiguity. Um, but that's the real world. You don't always get these clear, clean cut cases. That's why we have Netflix. Oh, hold on here. Uh, the only thing in Curtis's finger, I was his finger when he rubbed it. Apart from Critter, True Colors came out today. Curtis is so fragile, but not bruises. Yeah, right. That's why we have Netflix and Walmart home delivery. Uh, well, I'm an Instacart. Well, my girlfriend's an Instacart person, so that's what I use. Uh, but yeah, I hope you guys understand. This is the real world. I'm not saying the other cases aren't, but just like with Husel, there's a lot of ambiguity there. It's not clear cut, and that's where attorneys. It's about your creativity. What can you work with? What can you do? How can you shape a narrative? Taking this thing that you could disagree on and then running with it one way or another. Um, this is how you try cases. So as much as you guys don't like it, oh, Kimberly, you're welcome. It's just something to think about in that regard. Uh, you guys have any other questions? Okay. Yeah, I was gonna cover the Crumblies. I didn't see that they had their second part of their hearing done yet. That they should not be held accountable. If you go on, I'm gonna do the video on this. When you watch that preliminary hearing, what do we know? Mom said her kid was weird. If that's the standard for you to like think your kid's gonna turn into a time bomb and kill people, then Jesus Christ, my mom and dad are guilty as fuck because I was, believe it or not, you know, this me, the outgoing and apparently appearing smart guy who's a professional, an attorney, classically educated. I was a fucking weirdo when I was 16 and 17 years old. Like, I proudly admit that. I was not Rico Suave. But if that's the standard, I mean, Jesus Christ, how many parents in that county alone have got a kid where like, yeah, my kid's fucking weird? Like every teenager's weird almost. Um, yes, I will be on all day tomorrow. Yeah, and Ethan said he may have been asking for help, but you know what? I, they're gonna have to bring that kid in to do it. But I don't. Um, do you want a subscriber to message you when the stream starts tomorrow? Do you want a subscriber to message you? What? Okay, Kimberly. Yes, once she found out, oh my God, my kid's killing people. Yeah, I hope any parent would say, oh my God, little Johnny, please don't do that. But it's not like she was, sitting there like he's getting ready for school and she's like, you know, you know, here you go, honey. Here's your lunch bag. Like, oh, here's some extra magazines. Remember, when you shoot the kids, 2 in the chest, 1 in the head. Love you. Like, it wasn't like that. It wasn't that. Yeah, like what's she gonna say? Like, smoke those motherfuckers? Like, come on. She didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything illegal. Like, yeah, maybe getting that kid a pistol, fine, but to show that they were accomplices or they have some sort of culpability, did they participate? Did they cause it to happen? No. I mean, if you're really gonna look at people, the professionals who thought this kid needed help, comes into school, they're worried he's gonna fucking hurt somebody. Nobody checks his shit. Nobody checks his backpack or him to make sure he doesn't have a weapon. They didn't think like, hey, we should bring the school resource officer over or anything. Like, if we're gonna really, yeah, they had a choice to look at that backpack. When a kid's in school, as much as I like the Fourth Amendment, you really don't have a Fourth Amendment in that situation. They can search your shit, especially think you're gonna hurt someone. And they would have found all that stuff. Boom, done. Um, so no, and all the phone calls they played and the whole issue of mom saying, "Hey, don't look at stuff at school that's going to get the teachers all riled up." I mean, that's fine. Hey, don't rile up the teachers. But oh no, looking at ammunition. Oh no, that's oh no, don't look at ammunition. Um oh no, we're looking at ammunition right now. Oh, by the way, AIM surplus, they're out of Ohio. I use them a lot. Very good shipping times, very good quality with stuff in stock. AIM, if you're watching, sponsor me, wouldn't hurt. But oh no, it's looking at ammo. Ooh, spooky. I mean, geez. Yeah, no, it was don't get caught. Yeah, don't get caught doing shit that's gonna cause people to get all fired up. Um, oh, Critter, I don't think Critter, he's just giving you a hard time. I don't think he meant it badly. I think he said sorry. So it's okay. Um, and they may have ignored that kid and they have been shitty parents, but really, there are a ton of shitty parents out there that abuse and neglect their kids. And they were just like, weren't paying attention and weren't like keyed in. That's a lot of parents. I mean, they weren't beating this kid or treating him like shit. So, I mean, is that criminal? I mean, being a shitty parent shouldn't be a crime. I mean, you could play this out. There's probably kids in that county right now in similar situations that aren't going to kill anybody. So it's really kind of like a flip of the coin. I mean, and the idea of like, always drawing violent stuff on his books and stuff. I mean, I was in school playing I was playing this as a kid. I graduated high school in 2004, so I apologize. I don't mean to make anybody here feel old, but I mean, I was playing this crap as a kid, you know, and playing it all day long in school on school computers in front of teachers, and nobody lost their mind. You know, it's running around and okay, this is almost 20 years ago, so the graphics would have been a lot better, but you're running around killing each other and planting bombs and shooting things up. Like it's, you know, kind of like how things go. Like these were cutting edge graphics. And, I was doing this in a computer lab in front of my computer teacher and the principal walking by. Like it happened. Um, you run around and so like I said, you have to be careful when you go down these roads of what should they have known, what shouldn't they have known, because I don't know. And it's something you have to be careful about. Go back to sleep, Matthew. Yeah, guys, remember we can just hang out together. Do they do bundles on that site like a blue jacket, AR-15, and some ammo? What do you mean by like a blue jacket? Do you mean like a body armor? Yeah, Kimberly, not all kids shoot their classmates. 1977. I should not tell you what year I was born, because I do not want to offend you. Um, we're gonna get to Ethan Crumley. I mean, he's fucked. I mean, he might have a not guilty by reason of insanity, but I'm gonna do a video talking about not guilty of reason, not guilt, NGRI. God, that's how we say it because that way we don't have to say all the words or competency issues. I'm gonna do a video about that because there's special rules and things have to be done the right way. Um, do I think he's toast though? Yeah, I think so. He may have a lot of mental health issues, but is he insane? Did he know at the time what he's doing is wrong and he couldn't appreciate his actions? I don't think he's going to be able to meet that burden. That is an extremely, extremely high burden. I'll tell you this much. I've had clients who I thought were batshit crazy. I mean, and work in the public defender's office, the guy who gets picked up off the street and still smells like turds and cheap scotch when he's getting arraigned in the morning, just screaming like a lunatic. That's not necessarily enough to make you think that guy's insane. It's a very, very high bar. Um, I am so serious. Seriously serious. Um, um, so that's why I'll work on that and bring, they miss and ignore the warning signs. Oh, and I guess I'll say it like this, Kimberly. How many parents do that? A ton. A ton of parents. I mean, think about alone the teenage suicides, the teenage, drug abuse and alcohol abuse, teenagers doing crazy sexual stuff, running off, running away, teens that get caught up in trafficking because they feel like they're being neglected at home. So, once again, like I said, you got to be careful because I can show you a million other times it didn't happen. So, it's, but Matthew, I really wanted to ask you, you said, do they do bundles on that site like a blue jacket? Do you mean like a body armor or what did you mean by that? Because yeah, like you can buy a blue color jacket anywhere in America. Um, can the state have Ethan testify against parents? They can call him up and make him testify. Yeah, sure. But what's he going to say? Oh, my mom and stepdad didn't listen to me. I mean, is he going to say, oh, my mom was like, she gave me extra magazines to put in my backpack, and my mom showed me like, you know, two in the chest, one in the head. She taught me how to shoot center mass, and she taught me, how to do close quarter battle. I get that, but how many kids died? Sure. Oh, like visiting a Waffle House kit. Oh, yeah. You don't want a pair of underwear and shorts to go with that? Yeah. Uh, yes, that's I got you now. That makes sense. Um, but like I said, Kimberly, What did they do that was criminal? Like, specifically, how is that manslaughter? How does that make them guilty of that? You have to draw that line. Like, you have to take that line of manslaughter. You've got to draw that the whole way back. Can't have any breaks in that chain. What if it were yours? And that's, I would be very pissed off at them. I mean, I would love to see their house burned down. I might think, wow, I might want to kill one of them. But legally, are they liable? And what I'm going to say is, if you use emotional arguments like that, that's takes it out of, is this right or wrong? Because if we go by emotion, well, yeah, I would run too if I thought the government, when the prosecutor says we're going to go after these people and hem them up, if I thought I was going to be wrongfully prosecuted for some shit, I might go on the run too. I don't blame a reasonable person for that. When the prosecutor comes out and basically says, I don't give a shit, we're going after these guys. I mean, do you want to stick around? Do you think you're going to get a fair shake? I ain't. Um, but it's, you have to stay away from those emotional arguments. Like, what if it was your son? Well, it wasn't. And that shouldn't cloud your judgment. As an impartial third party, is this a crime? That's the standard. Because otherwise, every person charged with a crime, all you have to do as a prosecutor say, well, imagine if this is your mom dealing with it or if your loved one being the victim. Okay, everybody would be guilty then because everybody'd say, well, God, I wouldn't want that to happen. Fuck this guy. Well, yeah, at that point, yeah, it's like, oh shit, our kid, this is crazy. I don't think that's ever happened before. The parents like running as soon as they know what happened, but you know, they're not the brightest people in the world. But once again, that does not make their actions criminal. Stupidity is not a crime. Yes, and what you have to do is you have to put yourself in the shoes of what does a reasonably objective person believe is a fear? Does it, because you have to analyze it from his shoes. Do you believe, yeah, well, Gabby, going on the run because things are going bad, yeah. You need cash. Like, yeah, I mean, you expect him to live like in the live under an underpass. But yeah, you have to, for a self-defense argument, you have to analyze it from his position. Would a person in his shoes have a reasonable fear that they were going to face death or serious bodily injury? It's a reasonableness standard. Would a reasonable person, it's not that guy in that second, it's would a reasonable person in his situation have that problem? Because remember, put yourself in the victim's shoes. Okay, put yourself in Curtis Reeves' shoes. Oh, he said he was scared. He's scared. Done. That's it. Not guilty. That's not fair. That's not a fair system. And that's why I say you have to be careful. Put yourself in that person's shoes. Well, if you automatically just say, well, that emotional state for Curtis Reeves, then you can't convict him. And I guess that's my point where you run into that issue of, well, how would you feel if it was your family member? I mean, that's not the standard we use, though. I mean, I would lose every case. How would you feel if that was your mom that would get murdered? Like, how do I argue against that? I mean, that would be really rough. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, they may be stupid, but that's not a crime. Prosecutor's job is to get the prosecutor's job is supposed to be seeking justice. Um, John, but yes, can they play an emotion? You can play an emotion to an extent, but if you immediately go out there and say, "What if that was you?" Oof, I'm objecting. The judge is probably getting ready to crawl up somebody's ass. Not when Lexi doesn't have her dad 2 days ago for her ninth birthday. Yeah, Kimberly, I'm not saying it's not tragic, but if we're only going off of how bad things are going for somebody, well, then we're always convicting. I mean, yeah, things happen. But I think Lexi could say, Lexi, it sounds like your dad was a dick too at some point. Yes, I agree. Oh, he was the worst person I've ever dealt with. I'm like, you're on the SWAT team, bro. You've probably gone after some bad dudes. Well, Kimberly, he can admit that he was wrong and he didn't handle it properly, but If I don't handle the situation right, does that mean I'm guilty of it? No, I can admit, yeah, I probably should have de-escalated and just gone my separate way and sat somewhere else. I think that's where you're trying to go, where he's trying to go with that. Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with admitting, yeah, I really should have just ignored him. Listen to I've listened to his tape where he talks to the police. Yeah, he's like, I didn't do that the right way. I tell people to avoid problems and I didn't avoid it, and he wanted to confront, but is that enough confrontation that somebody's allowed to, in his position, his account, start attacking him? So you have to look at, was that all right or was that reasonable? When you mean Miranda, I'm assuming that's where you're talking. Mean he talked to the police in the interview because I watched that one. Okay, Chad was wrong too. No, Gabby. I've listened to the interview. I actually listened to the interview in the lead up to everything, and that's why I said like I'm still not convinced that he did anything wrong, but I wasn't convinced the prosecutor's case was the strongest. And I've also listened to all the stand your ground stuff, and he didn't really deviate at all from there. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna have to re-listen to his testimony fully through when I can pay attention to it. Although following along what's going on in Ukraine is going to be a little tough because that's going to eaten up my attention. I think this weekend. Uh well, guys, it looks like we're starting to peter out a little bit. So that's it for today. Bright and early tomorrow morning. Hopefully, the jurors don't fuck up the trial anymore for Dr. Husel. Um, in the Crumbly case, can they argue was an intervening cause? Uh, it's not an intervening cause in the sense of had the school done their job. I think you're arguing had the school done their job, there wouldn't have been a shooting. Um, you have to be careful that you don't shift the blame too much. I think they're better off arguing. Oh yeah, Kimberly, that's why I enjoy explaining it. Um, but John, going back to yours, you have to be careful about trying to point away from your pointing. If you start pointing in every other direction too much, like, oh no, it's them, boo, 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 because then after a while, it looks like you're trying to cover up something. I think it's really just going to come down to they did not commit a crime. Yeah, fill your gas tanks. We're going to wake up to $5 a gallon. Yeah, if what I understood was true, it's going to be really the well. It's actually Kiev is 7 hours ahead of us, so it's coming up on 6 a.m. there. It should be getting light, so there's probably a new situation on the ground there. I'm still hoping the Ukrainians are holding out, and I still hope they are stacking Russian bodies like firewood, but we shall see. And I know some of you would say, well, that's kind of harsh. Well, hey, kind of like you don't run up on people in their home country and start fighting them because they'll lay you out. So uh, that's really it, guys. Yeah, so I will see you guys in the morning and we'll talk more then. Yeah, get gas and take care, guys.